This video is intended to supplement the written DaVinci installation instructions, which should be used as your primary source of information. Nothing in this video supersedes any health or safety instructions provided by your employer or OSHA. DaVinci is not responsible for the viewer's failure to follow the written DaVinci installation instructions, or any other instructions provided by the installer's employer or OSHA. First, the roof deck must be a minimum 15/32 inch APA plywood, or 7/16 inch OSB. It is critical that the roof deck is clean of debris and that the surface is flat. Any decking flaws will affect the final appearance of the roof. An eaves flashing, or drip edge, made from copper, coated steel, or aluminum should be installed on the bottom perimeter of the roof. An overhanging drip edge is recommended, but not required. A full sheet of self-adhered membrane is required on all valleys. At least 18 inches of membrane is required on all gable ends, against walls, and around projections. In areas where the average January daily temperature is 25 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, or where ice buildup is possible, DaVinci requires self-adhered membrane be installed from the bottom edge, extending 2 feet above the exterior wall. In order to meet a Class C system for fire, a minimum 30-pound felt that meets ASTM D226 Type 2 standard, or a listed synthetic underlayment, is required over the entire roof, in addition to any self-adhered membrane. It is imperative that the starter course be straight, or subsequent courses will not align properly. The Bellaforte field tiles rely on the starter course to maintain straight coursing. It is necessary to snap a chalk line to ensure that the starter course is straight. The chalk line should be snapped approximately 2.5 inches above the bottom edge of the roof for slate and 3 inches for shake, to allow for an approximate 1-inch overhang. The top edge of the starter tile should be placed on the line. The amount of overhang may be adjusted to achieve the best water flow into the gutter. The starter tiles must be spaced 3/8 of an inch apart, as tiles will expand and contract with temperature changes. Buckling of the starter pieces will occur if they are not spaced properly. Bellaforte tiles must be laid from left to right. The outside edge of the tile will be covered by a rake tile on a gable end, or a hip and ridge tile on a hip, so precise cutting is not necessary. When installing Bellaforte tiles without a rake tile, please see the Special Issues section of the written installation guide. The first tile should seat directly on the starter tile. The stop or ledge on the bottom of the field tile rests directly on top of the starter. Slide the tile as far left as possible. The field tile should then be nailed on the tab first, and then on the top left-hand corner. Once the first tile is in place, the tile should be placed on top of it to start the second course. This tile should be placed so that its back ledge rests on the top edge of the first course tile. Slide the tile to the left so that the right side edges of the two tiles are offset by a minimum of 3 inches. The cut tile should be installed with 2 nails, one in the tab and another in the top left corner. A random pattern is the simplest pattern, and one that many people find aesthetically pleasing. This pattern is accomplished by setting the shingles back random amounts, as long as there is a minimum 3-inch side lap. The first tile on the third course should be installed in a like manner. It should also be set back a minimum of 3 inches. When shake rake tiles will be used to finish rake edges of projects, the 12-inch wide shake field tiles, those without the imitation breaks, should be used to start and end courses along the rakes. This will provide a more consistent thickness, which will allow the rake tiles to lay more uniformly when installed. Flashing should be used for all areas in which the roof abuts a vertical wall, dormer, chimney, skylight, or other structural protrusions. Step flashing and pan flashing are acceptable methods. Walls or projections must be prepared by installing a minimum of 18-inch self-adhered membrane that turns up the wall at least 4 inches and back on the deck or underlayment at least 14 inches. For the termination of each course, a transition tile must be installed with a piece of step flashing 4 by 4 by 14. The piece of step flashing should have a 1/4 inch return along the portion that is lying on the roof deck. To accommodate the 1/4 inch return, 2 horizontal ledges on the transition tile must be cut. The step flashing will be installed under each transition tile and held in place by the nail that each tile receives at the top. The Bellaforte transition tile is a tile without the alignment ledge on the back. Transition tiles are used wherever there is a metal flashing between courses. Examples include snow guards, pipe flashings, step flashings, and valleys that terminate in the field. Transition tiles may also be used wherever tow irons are used to support walkboards. Once the first transition tile completes the transition, subsequent tiles may be regular Bellaforte field tiles. For example, install and cut appropriate tiles below the pipe collar. Install a self-adhered underlayment and/or sealant to properly seal and direct water from underneath the upper tiles to on top of the lower tiles previously installed. Cut and install appropriate tiles around the top portion of the flashing as needed. Transition tiles are also used to adjust coursing when necessary. When installing Bellaforte tiles, a horizontal line should be chalked occasionally to ensure horizontal straightness. If tiles must be adjusted for straightness, the adjustment should be spread across several courses. Standard Bellaforte field tiles cannot be lowered because of the stop mechanism and can only be raised by a maximum of 1/4 inch per course. Bellaforte transition tiles can be used to lower a course if required. You can fabricate transition tiles in the field by removing the back ledge with a knife or planer. Da Vinci recommends the use of metal valleys with single or double diverters. These can be standing seam or closed or W open diverters. Open or closed valleys can then be completed depending on the number of diverters in the metal chosen. It is recommended that a strip of self-adhered membrane is placed on top of the valley and set back 1 inch from the diverter in either application. The tiles can be cut and butted up to the diverter as needed for each individual installation. At the bottom of a valley, when the valley metal comes between the face of one tile and the backside of another, a transition tile is needed. When nailing a piece of tile that is 6 inches or narrower, it is recommended that one fastener be placed in the upper corner where the cut tile overlaps or is overlapped by the connecting tile. The first tile is installed on the gable end so that the butt of the tile is flush with the butt of the first course of Bellaforte. The tip of the first rake tile should be cut so that it doesn't overlap the second course of tile. The rake tile should be nailed once on the roof side and once on the wall side. The tile should be nailed high enough so that the nails are covered by the next rake tile. The second rake tile should be installed so that the tip of the rake tile just touches the butt of the second course. When installing Bellaforte shake on a gable roof, different methods of installation are available. If you start each course with all 12-inch tiles, follow Method 1. Method 2 demonstrates rake installation when field tiles of varied thickness are used on a gable end. In Method 1, install the 12-inch field tiles, those without false breaks, to begin and end each course on gable ends. This makes the thickness of the tiles on gable ends consistent. Once all the field tiles have been installed, the first rake tile is installed on the gable end so that the butt of the tile is flush with the butt of the bottom course of field tiles. The tip of the first rake tile should be cut so that it doesn't overlap the second course of tile. The rake tile should be nailed once on the roof side and once on the wall side. The tile should be nailed high enough so that the nails are covered by the next rake tile. The second rake tile should be installed so that the tip of the rake tile just touches the butt of the second course. For Method 2, rake tiles may be installed with 2 screws secured to the gable wall or fascia. This is accomplished by placing the tile and holding it down and screwing a 2-inch corrosion-resistant screw through the butt of the rake tile and into the gable end wall or fascia. Then, another screw should be used on the gable wall side to attach the top of the rake tile. This method is used most often if field tiles of variable thickness were used on the gable ends. This will hold the rake tiles down and make the installation look more uniform. For Method 2, rake installation should proceed as it does in Shake Method 1, but using screws rather than nails. The one-piece hip and ridge tile should be installed at a 12-inch exposure. The tile should be nailed once on each side, about 3/4 of an inch from the outside edge, with 2-inch roofing nails. The hip and ridge should be nailed approximately 12.5 inches from the butt of the tile. A chalk line should be used on the hips to ensure straightness. A shingle-over-style continuous ridge vent may be used if desired. If continuous ridge vent is used, nails used to secure the hip and ridge tiles must penetrate the decking by at least 3/16 of an inch. For installing Bellaforte Slate hip and ridge, Da Vinci recommends using the Boston hip application, which will hide the underlying rib structure so it is not visible from the ground. Cut the bottom piece of hip and ridge into 2 mitered pieces that will allow the finished edges to run along the eave. A piece of flashing should be installed to protect the area under the seam formed by the cut material. The cut hip and ridge tile is then assembled so that the 2 pieces are butted together to form the bottom piece of hip and ridge. Once these 2 tiles are in place, a full hip and ridge tile is installed and pulled down so the outside corners just reach the bottom of the roof. The insulation can proceed to the ridge at a 12-inch exposure.